Jamaica and Grenada, a lesson learnt: collaboration, wisdom, dominance, strengths, compassion, nurturing, intelligence, influential, respect. From invasion to superstorm, lessons Grenada and Jamaica cannot ignore. History has a way of warning us long before the crisis arrives. In 1983, Grenada learned that externally inspired political instability invites forces far larger than its shores could contain. The assassination of Maurice Bishop and the sudden US invasion were more than a dramatic headline. They were a blunt reminder that small nations without internal unity or strategic resilience, nations pursuing social justice, economic empowerment, cultural uplifting, policies can quickly become arenas for a predatory, economic and military superpower. 4 decades later, Jamaica is learning its own hard lesson, not from soldiers, but from the sky. 2 catastrophic superstorms in consecutive years, Beryl in 2024 and Melissa in 2025, have smashed homes, broken infrastructure and erased progress. Melissa alone inflicted more than $8.8 billion in losses, wiping out 42% of Jamaica's GDP. It was not just a hurricane, it was an economic shockwave. The genesis is since the early 19th century. The burning of coal and oil by the industrialized countries of Eurasia, United States of America and Japan, releasing billions of tons of global warming atmospheric gases into the atmosphere. Countries in the southern hemisphere will pay a heavy price for the hubris of the northern hemispheric countries. Though different in form, both Grenada's political crisis and Jamaica's environmental disasters expose the same truth. The Caribbean stands on a dangerous front line. External pressures, whether geopolitical or climatic, strike small island states with a disproportionate force. A single political fracture or a single storm can unravel decades of development. But these events also reveal something else: the unbreakable spirit of Caribbean peoples. Grenada rebuilt after invasion. Jamaica is rising through the debris and loss with a determination that no storm can silence. Communities are organizing. The diaspora is mobilizing. Ordinary citizens are stepping into extraordinary roles. The lesson for both nations is simple but urgent. Resilience cannot be postponed. Political stability must be protected like infrastructure. Climate readiness must be treated like national security. Regional cooperation must become a habit, not a reaction. And both government and citizens must recognize that vulnerability is not fate, but failing to prepare is. Grenada teaches Jamaica the cost of political division. Jamaica teaches Grenada the price of environmental neglect. Together, they teach the Caribbean that survival requires unity, foresight, and relentless preparation. The future belongs to islands that understand their risk and build their strength before the next crisis arrives. The Caribbean has endured invasions, hurricane, external interference, but it has never surrendered its hope or its will to rise again. This is the moment to act boldly, learn deeply, and build a region that no army and no superstorm can break. Listen to the words of Maurice Bishop himself, speaking to the people.
Our people understand the value and the benefit of free secondary education because they know now that once their children are able to pass the common entrance exam and get into secondary school, they no longer have to worry about finding those fees, which, as you know, for agricultural workers, for example, were very often impossible. But not just free secondary education, but in effect free university education. Moving from a situation before the revolution, where in the last year of Gary, 1978, just 3 people went abroad on university scholarships. And they happened to be Gary's daughter and one of his other minister's daughter. Moving from that situation, in the first 6 months of the revolution, 109 students were able to go abroad on free university scholarships. Our people are more and more getting to understand what we mean when we say that education to us is liberation. That education is a strategic concern of this government. That is why this year, 1982, is the year we have named the year of political and academic education, because we understand the importance of bringing education to our people. Following the establishment of the Center for Popular Education program in early 1980, within 1 year of the work of the CPE program, the illiteracy figure in Grenada was reduced to 2% of the entire population. The people understand that in all areas of their basic needs, real attempts are being made to solve these problems. 2.5 million gallons more of water, pipe-borne water, are flowing into the homes of our Grenadians at this time. Before the revolution, under 30% of all homes had potable water. The people understand what it means when electrification is brought to their village. The people understand what it means when they know that by the middle of next year, we would have doubled the electricity output and capacity in our country, and therefore more people would have the possibility of electricity. Our people, therefore, sisters and brothers, have a greater and deeper understanding of what the revolution means and what it has brought to them. They certainly understand very, very clearly that when some people attack us on the ground of human rights, when some people attack us on the ground of constituting a threat to the national security of other countries, our people understand that is foolishness. They know the real reason has to do with the fact of the revolution and the benefits that the revolution are bringing to the people of our country. The real reason for all of this hostility is because some perceive that what is happening in Grenada can lay a new socio-economic and political path of development. They give all kinds of reasons and excuses, some of them credible, some utter rubbish. There's an interesting one that we saw very recently in a secret report of the State Department. I want to tell you about that one, so you can reflect on that one. That secret report made this point, that Grenada is different to Cuba and Nicaragua, and the Grenada Revolution is in one sense even worse, I'm using their language, than the Cuban and Nicaraguan revolutions, because the people of Grenada and the leadership of Grenada speaks English and therefore can communicate directly to the people of the United States. I can see from your applause, sisters and brothers, that you agree with the report. But I want to tell you what that same report also said, and said that also made us very dangerous. And that is that the people of Grenada and the leadership of Grenada are predominantly black. They said that 95% of our population is black, and they had a correct statistic. And if we have 95% of predominantly African origin in our country, then we can have a dangerous appeal to 30 million black people in the United States. Now, that aspect of the report clearly is one of the more sensible ones. But, sisters and brothers, how do we evaluate other sides of the report? Like when they say that Grenada violates human rights. When they say to us, how come you have detainees? What about the press? What about elections? When they say to us, where are your elections? They don't turn around at the same time and say to their friends in South Africa, where are your elections? When they say to us that elections must be held, and if you don't have elections, then you can't expect support, and unless you have elections, then we can't give you the normal treatment, we say, when the Americans had their revolution in 1776, it took them 13 years to call their election. They talk about detainees, but when the American Revolution came in 1776, 600,000 people were detained in this country. 100,000 Americans in the first week of the American Revolution. 100,000 fled to Canada. Thousands were locked up without charge or trial. Hundreds were shot. And the counter-revolutionaries after the American Revolution, they had no right to vote. They had no right to teach. They had no right to preach. They had no right to a job. Their land was confiscated without payment. So when the falsifiers of history try to pretend that the American Revolution was a Boston Tea Party, was a very bloody Tea Party. That's something that very often happens in all revolutions. The spontaneous upheaval of the masses did not really happen in Grenada. A church-based organization in Washington called Epica wrote a book last year on Grenada. They called it Grenada, the Peaceful Revolution. We can understand why. That the time has in fact come for us to make another step along the way towards institutionalizing the process that we have been building for 4 years. And that is why only yesterday in Grenada, the new chairman of the Constitutional Commission arrived in our capital city, St. George's, from Trinidad and Tobago to announce the formation of the Constitutional Commission that has now undertaken the task of drafting a new constitution for our young revolution. This constitution is not really going to look like the one that the Queen gave us in 1974. This time round, this constitution is going to come out of the bowels of our people and out of our earth. Our people will have their inputs and will decide what they want to see go into that constitution. Our new constitution also is certainly going to institutionalize and entrench the systems of popular democracy which we have been building over these past 4 years in our country. Because to us, democracy is much, much more than just an election. To us, democracy is a great deal more than just the right to put an X next to Tweedledum name or Tweedledee name every 5 years. But democracy also means, and to us it has 5 integrated components. First, accountability. People have to account to those who elect them. The second principle of democracy to us, responsibility. We don't believe in Grenada in presidents for life or elected people for life. We believe in service for life. And when you stop serving, you must be recalled and get out of the way for somebody else to serve. The third principle. To us, the third principle of democracy is participatory mechanisms, popular participation. If we are serious about democracy, and here I would accept the definition, the well-known definition of Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln said of democracy that it is government of, for, and by the people. I accept that. It's a good definition. But if it is government of, for, and by the people, then it cannot be just government of the people you elect. It also has to be for them, and it also has to be by them. They have to have a way of participating. That is what the word by means. And if that is absent, you don't really have the democracy. We believe that it is very important for the people to have a voice in running their affairs.
And I believe that is true also. The people should have a voice to running the country's affairs. This is the Motivator Show. This is where we translate our words into action and where success is ours for the taking. It's very much a mindset. Here in the Motivator Show, we are duty bound to provide you with good quality, untainted information. Information that both inspires and motivates you into action. So you can take care and improve yourself, support and take care and improve your family, your wider networks, and your wider community. And in doing so, we together transform the world. Welcome. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, we wish to urge you to do so. It simply tells the YouTube algorithms that the content that you found, you discovered there, you're enjoying, you're experiencing, is worthwhile and should be shared with others. And we thank you for your support, because this has truly been an inspirational few days. I've had the privilege to speak to some truly inspired human beings. Human beings full of compassion, intelligent, oh gosh, yes, intelligent, yeah, aware, compassionate, empathetic human beings. Being amongst such people is truly an empowering experience. Yeah, that's what good is. They're truly empowering people. And the vast majority of them, I can assure you, have no idea how empowering, just by their virtue, their goodness, how empowering they truly are. Yeah. Now, the old saying, love, compassion, way trumps, supersedes evil and desperation. Mhm. Oh, yeah. Well done, people. Well done. Well done. Well done. So today's podcast will be truly an inspired experience. In approximately, get that right, 30 minutes, you will experience an interview I conducted with a live revolutionary. I use the word revolutionary not in the sense which the propaganda might have you suggest and put an image in your mind of violence, um, of evil, yeah, of grotesque behavior. No, a revolutionary who simply wants, well, common sense policies for the basic needs of the human being to be met. That's all. That's all. Basic needs. Yeah, basic needs. Yes, it's revolutionary in some contexts because some of the environments at which many human beings, our brothers and sisters around the world, find themselves in is indeed, from a human perspective, hostile. Yes, hostile. Because those who have want to have more, want to hoard more, and thereby the masses have less. That level of hubris, yeah, greed, grotesqueness still pervades many of our leadership across the globe. Many families with incredible wealth will hold that wealth for themselves and leave hundreds of millions, indeed, billions of other families destitute, yeah, grotesque behavior, grotesque behavior. And that is actually still the conditions here in the 21st century, despite the enormous wealth and our capabilities to overcome destitution amongst our species. Yeah. Note the word, our species, indeed, our human race. Because there's only one race, the human race. If there's any race, there's only one race. Mhm. But we are actually a single species. Hmm. That's the fact. If in doubt, I say to you all, please do some of your own research. Yeah. So we can overcome the propaganda that we're often taught. Yeah. Yeah. They're bombarding our senses. And thereby we're being, as it were, corralled by those who have incredible wealth and influence, but misuse it for their own ill-gotten gains. Yep, so they can retain it. Yeah, that is currently the human condition. But I've said on often occasion, it is whilst good people allow such people to continue to rule the waves, then the suffering will continue. At some point, you are the change makers. You take responsibility for the world's condition. Because together we can transform the world. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. It has been a wonderful few days, absolutely wonderful. And the interview that will come up will focus on Grenada, the lessons learned from which Jamaica can absolutely acquire. It's important that if these two nations come closer together and compare notes, these two nations will be outstanding economic, social, and cultural superpowers. Absolutely. Watch this space. Yeah, watch this space. Watch this space. Watch this space. In approximately what 25 minutes. It's coming. Okay. But between now and then, as you know, in this part, in this section of the podcast, the usual public service announcement I want to make. Important announcement, what are designed to help you and us to grow together. My first duty, of course, is always to compliment my past contributors, just a few of them. And I've got to tell you, in 2025 has been truly an inspired year. I've been blessed by guests who have been truly inspiring, who have demonstrated the virtue, the magnificence that is human beings. Yeah, I've got to say, I've been so privileged. Okay, so I want to give the big thumbs up to him. Yes, to the crown prince of the Amadi kingdom. I want to give a big thumbs up to the Amadi people, inspired human beings who have, for the very first time, yeah, recognized a man born in Jamaica to be their future monarch, which will happen next year. Mhm. I want to bow my head in respect to the Crown Prince, who spoke with such wisdom, such insight, such caring, such empathy, such foresight. Oh, yeah. Honor and respect to you, Crown Prince. Honor and respect to you. And those of you who could help and ensure that the Crown Prince is able to bury the previous monarch who recently passed, okay? The previous king who recently passed, okay? And secondly, is able to contribute to the coronation, to his coronation, which will be an historic occasion. And of course, contributes him to be able to marry the future king. All contributions are welcome. If in doubt, I say to you all, ask questions. Look, I say again, if in doubt, ask questions. The details of how you can contact the Crown Prince will be put in the comment section of this podcast. Okay. And if you wish to reach out to him, please don't hesitate. Understand that if we work together, we can ensure the right people are in the right post. Okay. This podcast email address, there you are, it's on the studio. There you've got it there on the screen for you. To reach out to us, you want details of how to contact the Crown Prince, send your messages to this email address, The Motivator Show 501 at gmail.com. If you wish to join and receive regular notifications of content and people that have joined the Motivator Show, send your message to The Motivator Show 501 at gmail.com. We welcome your contact and thank you very much. Thank you very much. Crown Prince, thank you. We'll be in touch very soon. We'll be in touch. I also, at this point, also want to remind you of another one of my guests. Again, I say again, we've been truly blessed. We've been blessed with such inspired human beings, truly inspired human beings. I want you to remember our discussion on what happened in the Caribbean. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hurricane Melissa. Yeah. Category 5, highly unusual, with wind speed of up to 185 miles an hour, devastated swathes of Jamaica and indeed Haiti as well. A devastating economic blow to the island of Jamaica. Yeah. It caused more than 42% destruction of Jamaica's GDP, gross domestic product. In other words, its output. That's how much was disrupted. Can you imagine nearly half your output disrupted suddenly over a 24, 48 hour period as a result of a storm, a violent storm, a storm that originated here in the northern hemispheres, here in the countries of Europe, United States of America, and Japan. Yeah, the big polluters, the poisoners of our atmospheres. Yeah, which is the result in this global warming we're now experiencing, and the atmosphere is warming, the seas warming, and causing violent storms. And all the prospects are that these storms, unfortunately, get worse before they get better. I paused there. I wanted to sink in. Therefore, we are our brothers and sisters' keepers. If you're asked by your local municipal authority to recycle, I encourage you to do so. Recycle, recycle, recycle. And if they're not recycling, if they've not got a policy to recycling, demand that they do so we can build a more sustainable world. If they're still burning coal and oil, demand that they use more sustainable energy sources, because we need a better world for our children, indeed our children's children. It is vitally important, vitally important. But I want you to remember, of course, the contribution I had in that podcast. Okay, if you've not seen it, I urge you to go look at our YouTube channel. It's there, waiting for you to watch. Mhm. So we had Jamaicans sharing their experiences, yeah, of those devastated towns, villages. Yeah, we had a recording of the PMP in Jamaica, their leadership, their MPs, their senators, speaking to the people, providing first-hand account to the extent to which their towns, their villages have been completely destroyed, either a directly result of the storm or a result of flooding. Yeah. there was some of those accounts which were truly moving. Yeah? Truly moving. I hope at some point to get some of those MPs here in the studio so they will provide us with a first-hand account. But we are fortunate, though, that the Jamaican opposition parties and their elected representatives, yeah, are going to join us here, not in this Saturday morning, but at a date on the 26th of November. Mhm. They're going to join the people here in Britain, yeah, and Europe and provide first-hand accounts of what is needed in Jamaica. This will be an important occasion, truly important occasion. And if you are able to attend, it'll be an online meeting. If you are able to attend, I urge you to do so. Okay? So PMP UK, okay, which is a social enterprise, not-for-profit entity here in the UK, has organized a town hall meeting. Okay? And that's on Wednesday, the 26th of November. Okay? I want you to listen to this. You are warmly invited. This is, of course, the Jamaican community across the UK and beyond, and of course, the friends and supporters, to a special town hall meeting on international partnership for resilience and reconstruction. This will be a conversation rooted in politics, forgive me, not in politics, but in collective responsibility, unity, and hope. Wonderful words, wonderful words. In this moment of national challenge, Jamaica's recovery depends on more than policies or party lines. It depends on us all, Jamaicans at home and abroad, choosing to stand together, to collaborate and support one another. This town hall meeting will bring together respected national leaders. Let me just give you a few, it's going to be really important. The Honourable Mark Golding, leader of the Jamaican opposition and president of the People's National Party, and he's the MP for St Andrews South. MP Dr. Dayton Campbell, General Secretary of the People's National Party, okay, very important man, of course, and he's the MP for St Anne's, Northwestern. And Natalie Nita Garvey, yes, Garvey, huh? Of course, she is the Minister for Local Government and Participatory Democracy. And she represents the North Central St. Catherine's constituency. Yep. In other words, these are representatives of the people speaking directly to us. Again, I want to emphasize that we speak not as politicians, but as Jamaicans committed to safeguarding the future of the country we all love and admire. The gathering will focus on how communities can recover stronger through unity and partnership. The role of international collaboration in rebuilding and supporting local efforts. How the diaspora and its friends can meaningfully contribute regardless of distance. Practical ways that you, Jamaicans and others abroad, can help strengthen resilience back home. Mm-hmm. We share a vision of togetherness, yeah, during these times of uncertainty. Yeah, that's the theme. Yeah, share a vision of togetherness during these times of uncertainty, and be open to broad questions. It will be powerful meeting, a truly powerful meeting, unique for the UK and Europe. Okay, this is the place to be. Okay, This is the place to be. So on the screen, you can see the details. So it'll be on Wednesday, the 26th of November from 7 p.m. Now, it does say BST, but actually it's 7 p.m. Okay? That's the London time. Okay? If you want to participate, want to be part of that audience, and it will be a pretty intense experience, okay? What I urge you to do is send a message to the PNP secretary, okay? And I'll put her details on the screen for you. There you go. I'll put it, here we go. I'll put it on the screen for you. There we go. Go on. There you go. The PNP secretary. Very auspicious person, I've got to tell you. Powerful woman. A powerful woman, I tell you. My gosh. You know, if the world was this PNP secretary, why, we'll be, as a species, we'll be flying. But anyway, send your request to participate, to be a part of the audience to pnpuk.secretary@gmail.com. I say again, if you want to be a part of the audience and ask questions, send your request to pnpuk.secretary@gmail.com. I'm assuring you, this will be truly an inspirational gathering. Truly inspirational. Truly inspirational. Okay. If in doubt, ask questions, I say to you. If in doubt, ask questions. I've found often people are loath to ask questions. Got to ask questions. Send your request to pnpuk.secretary@gmail.com. You are all most welcome. There you go. Powerful, powerful. And if you're not in receipt of our regular notifications, okay, send your messages to our podcast email address. Okay, and I'll put it on the screen for you again, just to remind you. And if in doubt, ask questions, because I find people just asking questions, they may express concern, but not ask questions. There you are. Write to us here, The Motivator Show 501@gmail.com. The Motivator Show 501@gmail.com. There you go. There you go. So those were just a few of the announcements. Time presses somewhat. Okay. But you can appreciate the wondrous year we have experienced. And that meeting on the 26th of November will be quite unique, to have all of these elected representatives from Jamaica providing first-hand account, not the account provided by civil servants or filtered through some other lens, but actually first-hand accounts of what is happening on the ground, an assessment of what is required, and of course, how you can contribute to build back better in Jamaica. But learning the lessons from Grenada, there are lessons to be learned. And those of you who listened to the intro video would have heard Maurice Bishop speak. His voice, you heard his voice speak with such authority, such compassion, such vision. Powerful, man, powerful. And if you haven't watched it, go back to the beginning of the podcast. You can hear it, hear and watch the man speak. That is hard. Now, thank you for that, and thank you for a slightly extended intro. I know, but it was important, very important. That meet on the 26th is critical. I say again, if you're not in receipt of our regular newsletters, our regular notifications, send a message to that email address, The Motivator Show 501@gmail.com. Okay, we'll ensure that you receive appropriate notifications. Okay. And those of you who are in receipt of our and part of our WhatsApp distribution, I say to you, after this podcast, you receive notification of the important PNP UK meeting and the political representatives whose constituencies have been sorely affected by Super Hurricane Melissa. Okay, all right. Now it's time for that other aspect of this podcast, a regular feature of our live podcast. And that is, of course, these lifestyle messages, all important lifestyle messages, okay, particularly African and South Asian communities. Levels of diabetes are through the roof. Levels of hypertension or high blood pressure is through the roof. Levels of obesity or fatness is through the roof, with long-term public health consequences. And many of you with those conditions will know what it's like. It is profoundly impactful on your life, on your general health and well-being. I've come across far too many people all weighed down with illnesses that are avoidable. It is therefore incumbent upon me not to look and walk on by. It is incumbent upon me, wherever I get the opportunity, to remind us all of good lifestyle messages. But these messages are not from me, you know. I rely upon the expert, those who devote their lives to promoting our health and well-being, our physical, our mental and spiritual health. Listen to their advice and not allow my ego to get in the way. Yeah. Listen to their advice and follow their advice. Yeah, they're the experts. The public health director for London is a Jamaican man. I want you to hear his wise words, and you could tell he's so clever. He's able to summarize in a few words. yeah, in a few words, what we need to do in order to promote good health and well-being. Oh yeah. Listen to listen to his words as he describes good common sense lifestyle messages. Watch this and listen keenly. Professor Kevin Fenton says, I'm a public health director. Here are 5 things you can do to improve your health. 1. Mindful and balanced eating. Nourish wisely. Eat whole, balanced meals with awareness to support energy and well-being. 2. Get outside. Be with nature. Time outside reduces stress, improves mood, and strengthens your connection to the world. 3. Stay curious, stay engaged, explore new interests, keep your mind sharp, build social contacts, and boost your happiness. 4. Get active, move it or lose it. Move daily, lift weight, and do cardio. Exercise, improve physical, mental, mood, and energy. 5. Prioritize rest and sleep. Disconnect. Rest. Quality sleep supports mental clarity, emotional balance, and overall health. Yes, simple messages. And if we were able to practice those messages, just practice those words on a daily basis, incorporate it as part of our regular activity, our regular behavior, we will transform our general health and well-being. Yeah? His messages are clear and unambiguous, how we can take control of our immediate, forward, and future health, that you can live a longer, healthier life. That's what we all want here, that you live a longer, healthier life. There is no financial gain for me, and I'm assuring you there's no financial gain for Professor Fenton. His words are just common sense advice to help us, to help you, to help me to live a longer, healthier life. And what I'm heartened by is the number of you who've heard these messages, understood their implication, their importance to us, who've understood these messages are for us, for me, for you, for us. Have understood that if you've Adhere to these messages, incorporate these messages as part of your consciousness, your awareness, that you can transform your personal health and well-being. Indeed, your family's health and well-being. Indeed, your wider network health and well-being. Your communities, your nation's health and well-being. Simple steps, simple actions, and together we can transform the world. You've got to believe that you are the change makers. Change begins with you. You can live longer, healthier lives, not be weighed down by illnesses. And in doing so, you set the example for young people who see you practicing and understand the implication, the importance of these practices. So together, the young people incorporate this behavior as part of their consciousness. And in doing so, you're doing good. You're doing good. Yeah, you are the change makers. You're doing good. Yeah, love trumps, exceeds, supersedes evil. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And what I'm heartened by is the numbers of you who've heard these messages, incorporated as part of your consciousness, your regular routine, your habit, your behavior, and have come together in common aim and common purpose. And what I'm heartened by is that these numbers increase with each of these podcasts. And I notice that other podcasters now incorporate just a few minutes of lifestyle messages into their podcast. Because they're influencers like me, they're influencers. If we can influence others to incorporate as part of their daily routine lifestyle messages that actually are meaningful, then we improve the health of the nation. Because that's what the nation is calling for the influence, those who would lead, those who influence people's opinions, to provide good quality information so that we can transform the world. I'm going to play for you an example. People have come together, who've heard these messages, who've come together in common aim and common purpose to pool their resources, have understood working together, they're better off. In unity is strength. In understanding, pooling their resources, anything is possible. Believing in themselves and recognizing anything is possible. Your health is your highest wealth. I say again, your health is your highest wealth, because together we can transform the world. I want you to observe these group of people who've come together in common aim and common purpose. Watch them, admire them, but I want to urge you not simply to sit there and watch them. I want you to participate. It's only 2 minutes. I want you to participate. Yeah? Agreed? Oh yes. Come on now. There we go. That's it. Get off your chair now. Just move your legs. That's right. See them moving their legs. That's it. Bend your knees. That's right. Just slowly do it your own pace. That's right. Just bend your legs. There you go. Oh yeah. And together we can transform your health. Just bend your knees. That's right. Oh yes. That's right. And together we can transform your health. Stretch your arms. That's right. Stretch your heart. Come on. Enjoy with us. That's for a few minutes. There you go. Go. There you go. Oh, I'm putting it right in my head. Come on, enjoy it. This is for you. It's for you. That's right. Put your arms up. That's right. There we go. Seriously. Here we go. Powerful. Powerful. That's it. Oh, I feel you. A little bit of sweat won't harm you. Don't you worry. That's it. Just take it at your pace. Oh yes, there you are. Transformative. There you are. Oh, she's enjoying herself. She's smiling at us. Oh yes. Ooh. Ooh. Look like they're dancing now. Oh yes, a bit of dance goes a long way. Oh yes.
Oh yes, come on now. Make it work. Oh, absolutely. Look at that. Bend your knees. I see children there as well. That's right. They've got their children with them. And the children are watching, learning, incorporating regular exercise as part of their consciousness. This is a good thing you're doing. This is good. This is good. That's right. That's right. See them? They're making this wall. They're pulling their children. They're widening this. There you go. There you are. Transformative. That's right. That's it. You can do this. You can do this. Wonderful. That's right. Can you do this? Come on now. It's only another 30 seconds. Another 30 seconds. That's it. Ooh. Oh, I can feel it. Oh my gosh. Absolutely. 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 Oh, I'm going to stop there. Oh, I did it. Oh. That is what we need. Collective work and responsibility. Yeah. Taking responsibility for our health and well-being. And doing with others, enjoying with others, ensures then that collective work and responsibility being activated with others ensures it's sustainable. Because when you get tired, others will pick you up and help you. And they will help because they understand the importance of the actions. And working together, getting used to collaborating together, you will transform your health, you'll transform your family's health, indeed, your wider community's health, just by your simple actions. Actions speak louder than words. And together we can transform our condition. Yeah. Don't believe the negative propaganda that says that you are powerless. Yeah. Because that's what those who hold the wealth, those who hold the power, that's what they want you to believe. I remind you, a multi-trillion-dollar economy, United States of America, invaded an economy that was only worth a few hundred million. More than 350 million population sought to destroy the power of a population of just over 100,000 because they were afraid of that David. They're afraid of that tiny population. My ideas might propagate, yes, in the United States of America as well. This tiny little place, 100,000 people versus a population of more than 350 million people. An economy worth tens of trillions of dollars compared to one worth only a few $100 million. Yeah, that's how powerful the people of Grenada were. Yeah, absolutely. And they remain that powerful right now. The illusion that others try to create is that you are powerless. That's why these lifestyle messages are so important. Because you take control. You are the change makers. Once you believe and you understand the importance of your role in change, then you cause the wave of change in your immediate family, your communities, your societies. You are the change makers. Oh yeah. That's why these lifestyle messages are so important, because you are taking control. You're fighting back. Yeah, you are asserting your control, your desire for life, long, healthy life. You understanding it's your actions that matter, not what others tell you. It's your action, your resolute action that matters. Oh yeah, those people you've just seen are good examples. And when we say we translate our words into action, because success is yours, ours for the taking. Yeah. Look, if you're in London, in South London, why don't you join them and exercise on a Monday or a Wednesday evening? That's their typical day. Let me find their detail and put it on the screen for you. But I'm assuring you, they're just good people. Yeah, they're just good people. They understand the importance of working together. They understand when it is said, it's not said as a means what? for personal grandizements. It's actually said as a means so that the people can come together, take responsibility, and empower each other through our actions. There you are. The details are on the screen. If you're in London, in South London, why not meet them? You can meet them in the flesh, as it were. Okay? On Monday and Wednesday between 6:30 and 8 p.m. Yeah, at number 12 Tatum Street, Tatum Street, in London, at Wharf in London. Postcode S for sugar E17 1TN, Togo, Nigeria. Yeah. Email address, you can reach out to them at countdown0405@gmail.com. Yep. Telephone number, again, if you're in the UK, it's 07960 803 588. I have not a problem in commending the work of this wonderful group of people. Continue to grow. I am pleased to have contributed a small part to that growth. And there are hundreds of them right across Britain and Europe. And together, cumulatively, you will have the impact. You see, the people are behind me right now. You see them, they're behind them. They understand the collective work and responsibility. They are the people of Grenada. They can teach a great deal to the people of Jamaica. Compare notes. Yeah? Compare notes. There's wisdom, there's intelligence, there's foresight, there's prescience amongst those people of Grenada. They've demonstrated and produced leaders, inspired human beings who are responsible for the transformation that is underway across the Caribbean, Africa, and beyond. That tiny little island of just over 100,000 people. Can you imagine? Huh? Where I live here in London, a quarter mile is about 100,000 people. Yeah. Can you imagine a big multi-trillion-dollar economy is terrified of that tiny island not because of the numbers, but because the souls, the human beings are inspired. They took control and, of course, installed a leader, a visionary leader, whose sole concern was to ensure that the basic needs of the people were satisfied. Mhm. You have a right to good quality healthcare. Not healthcare where you have to almost bankrupt yourself. Yes, United States, where you have to bankrupt yourself just for good quality healthcare. You have a right to it. So you pay for it through your taxes. Yep. So it's free at the point of use because you paid for it through your taxes. Yep. Best possible healthcare. That investment in the people is good for the people, is good for the economy. You have a right to good quality education. Yep. Primary. Yep. Secondary, tertiary education, advanced university education. You have a right to it. You invest in the education of the people. Their efficiency, their ability to contribute to the economy increase exponentially. Exponentially. It's just common sense policies. You have a right to a roof over your head. Yes, you have a right to it. Yep, should be paid for through your taxes. Where every human being has a right to a roof over their head. You have a right to access to clean, safe water. You have a right. Absolutely, you have a right. Pay for it for your taxes so all human beings can have access to clean, safe water. You have a right to good sanitary conditions. Yeah, so all your waste goes safely, is dispelled safely. Yeah? So it doesn't pollute the environment. You have a right to demand that of your leaders. It is absolutely innate human right. I want to add, even though I'm a man, I want to say this. I believe all women who are menstruating have a right to whatever products they require to ensure that they can menstruate without embarrassment or shame. I believe that's an absolute human right. I'm a man, I know I'm saying that. But it cannot be right that some women cannot be women, that aspect of their femininity, their womanhood, should be a sort of shame and embarrassment. No, that is wrong. That is wrong. You have a right to demand good governance in your amongst your leadership. Good governance, governance that do not steal from the public, governance that uses the taxes and invests in the infrastructure, yeah, of your nation. Nigerians, please hear that word. The politicians should not be allowed to steal from the public purse, should not be allowed to enrich themselves, yeah, and thereby undermine that country's economic growth. That is wrong. That is wrong. I'm saying again, that is wrong. That's the only reason why Nigeria is in the condition it's in. Allowing those politicians become politicians and then become multi-billionaires. How stupid is that? I say to you, I say again, hey, President Tinubu, Bola Tinubu, I'm saying to you, how stupid is that? Yeah, it means that despite being the 5th largest oil exporter in the world, Nigerians do not have guaranteed electricity. And many are burning diesel, individual diesel engines in order to create electricity. Stupid. That's not sensible. That is not sensible. You can, I please request, you must do better. You must do better. And lastly, for you all, you have a right to demand that those who govern you and those responsible to ensure the laws of your land are implemented fairly apply their governance with equity. Mhm. That they do not be biased for one group over another, mhm, whether for religious, ethnic, or other reasons. Equality under the law must be sacrosanct. That must be your demand. Equality under the law must be sacrosanct. I suppose just those ideas alone, that little island of Grenada, was enough to disturb the multi-trillionaires of the United States of America. We're going to hear from them very soon. This interview that follows in a few moments will be an interview with a live revolutionary. When I described him as such, he was bashful. He's a revolutionary because he lives up to the motto of these podcasts that translate words into action. And he fully actuated, these words. He lived through that experience. But he keeps talking himself down. You watch him. He's an inspired human being. And I was honored to spend the time with him. Today, I will only play a part of this interview. What will follow with the next 24 hours will be a full podcast in a series, okay, manageable parts. But I'm assuring you, you'll find the experience truly inspirational. I'll just make one request before I go into the interview proper. If you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, I request that you do so. It will greatly help us out. Greatly help us out. Okay. Remember, press the subscribe button. And don't forget the notification bell. Okay. And don't leave without at least giving us the thumbs up. Yep, please a thumbs up. That you are satisfied that the content that we provided today was both informative, empowering, encouraging. Okay. We very much appreciate it. Very much appreciate it. It will help us out. There's a billion or so people subscribed to YouTube. It's free, I might add. It's free. In doing so, we can spread the word even further afield. We thank you for your support. Thank you. Now it's time to meet a live revolutionary, someone who's translated his words into action. I want you to watch he's so humble, so humble. Oh my gosh. True human being, you know? True human being. He was careful to note his mixed heritage, so-called mixed heritage. Yeah. Oh yeah. Watch and learn. People of Jamaica will learn a great deal from these interviews. Okay, so this is only a part of it. Leaders or otherwise will learn from this experience. All right, here we go. Hang on to your seats, for what comes now will be truly inspirational. It's the motivator here. This is where we translate our words into action and where success is ours for the taking. Hey, people, I've got another inspirational interview for you. I've got here history personified. Okay. My guest today is someone who lived through the Grenadian Revolution. He is a true living revolutionary. In other words, a revolutionary is someone who wants genuine social change. He doesn't simply want to put a stick and plaster on what we had before. This is someone who wants genuine social change and was a part of that social change before he was brutally crushed. Okay. Look at him. You know, he looks like a young man. Can you imagine? He's a young man. Yeah. True. He's got genuine African genes there. There's no doubt about that. That's for sure. Look at him. Yeah? I look like an old man by comparison. And I know I'm younger, but I look like an old man in comparison, huh? Oh, good morning, sir. Can I ask you, please, just to say your name, your organization, please, and I may have a follow-up question after that, but just give your name and organization, just so that the audience can appreciate who you are, first of all. Go ahead.
Okay. Firstly, can you hear me?
We can hear you very well.
Thank you very much. Wow, I don't know what you've been, what sort of loco weed you've been drinking, but you are overrepresenting me. I now wish to be known as Kwabena Denot Nayak. Those of your viewers and listeners who come to this program will have known me as Dennis Bartholomew previously. I still use that name from time to time, but I have reverted back to my birth name, and I've added a Ghanaian component to that birth name, and I am ancient. My contribution to the Grenada Revolution was minor and done mainly from this country, but I have information which I have. I belong to a group called Grenada for Whatever. It's on the website, where our principal objective is to ensure that the gains of the revolution remain in people's memory, because that is one of the weapons we're facing, the deliberate amnesia of what happened during this period. Thank you.
Beautifully said. You're right. Deliberate amnesia. Okay, I may have to return to that. But you describe both your birth name and your inspired name, and it's a Ghanaian linkage. It's lineage. What does it mean? Because I'm very familiar with our ancestral names, and they typically have meanings. What meaning is your name, please? To me and my audience. Go ahead. Yeah.
In one of the nations in Ghana, I've forgotten which, but the one that we all refer to.
Ashanti,
I think it may be Asante, or one of the Asante, one of the Asante kingdoms or queendoms.
Or Ga?
I have to profess my ignorance, but the male child and the female child are given names according to the day of the week in which they were born. With the beauty of our calendars in our phones, I was able to determine I was born on a Tuesday, and so Kwabena is for male children born on a Tuesday. Why have I decided to go down this route? Is I wanted to honor both of my heritages. I have Indian heritage, and I have African heritage.
Yes.
And the Indian heritage is in my name, and I've added the African heritage with the Quabana.
Well said. Well said. And to be clear, though, because it's quite an important decision to, as it were, reclaim the name. But what was the imperative behind reclaiming the name Quabana? What's the imperative? Yeah.
I have no problem with my stepfather. We are not, and we're not in any battle. So I haven't got any Oedipus complex, if you were thinking.
It's okay.
I just do not wish to be buried under the name of someone who may have captured my predecessor. Why should I give them that honor? No, I am going to be buried under my name. This does not take away from the fact that my children may wish to be buried under the name that they currently have. And I do not wish to insult anyone else in Britain or elsewhere into changing their name through insult. I'm not intending to do that. It is for me. It is a very personal thing, and this is what I'm doing. I want to be buried under the name Nayak. I want to be buried under the name Quabana.
Honour and respect to you, sir. Honour and respect to you. Praise be.
Thank you.
Honour and respect to you. Thank you. Of course, you were born at a time and where you had the opportunity to have experience revolutionary change at first hand. Okay. And I know in your own country of Grenada, has many similarities to Jamaica. Okay, and I'm reminded of the very first Prime Minister there, and his name, which it should come to me in a moment.
Eric Matthew.
Yeah, thank you for Kerry. Not sure why I couldn't remember there, but anyway, yes, he appears to be something of a revolutionary in his own right. Okay. Someone, and I name him because, gosh, the Americans didn't seem to like him either. Okay, and of course, part of that New Jewel movement. Okay, there is something about the Grenadian politics of the time which we across the Caribbean and indeed beyond do not discuss. What was happening at that time? So do you recall firsthand his time as the leader of the country, and what did he do to set the future of Grenada?
I came to Britain in 1960 and did not return until 1972. When I returned, I spent 6 weeks in Grenada, and the 6 weeks that I spent illustrated to me a moribund country, one in which nothing much appeared to be happening, one in which it was looking forward to independence, but without much in the way of expectation.
Okay.
And at the time, Eric Matthew Gary was a premier, not prime minister. Yes. He was premier under the British.
Indeed.
And he was in fear of an organization called the NJM, the New Jewel Movement, with Jewel standing for Joint Endeavour for Welfare, Education and Liberation. And he was seen by Jewel as a dictator. And when Jewel took power, they cast him in the role, and I cast him in the role of dictator. However, when you take a more nuanced view of what Eric Matthew Gary did, he brought benefits to the people of Grenada. Grenada was still and remains a wholly agricultural society, although you have some offices in Grenada and some administrative things happening.
Yes.
It is still an agrarian society, but an agrarian society at that time that had had the leftovers of the plantation economy in which most Grenadians worked at extremely poor wages which had not been increased in line with inflation. Poverty wages. You would almost say that it would be better if they were kept as enslaved Africans rather than as paid workers. Gary broke the system of the plantation. He broke the system of colorization, where you saw only the light-skinned Grenadians going into offices and being behind the banks, being behind the desks in the insurance companies, and so on. He broke that. And I can say to you that when I heard what I thought was propaganda against Gary and didn't believe it, that supporters of Gary, women supporters of Gary, said he was the first man who gave them wages that they were able to buy underwear. I didn't believe it.
Oh,
however, I spoke
explain,
with the leader.
Explain that. Forgive me. Explain that. Because I've heard this said in passing in other places, but I'm not. I find it difficult to fully understand what that really meant. Do you really mean the women were not able to afford underwear? Is that what you really say?
Yes. Yes.
Oh wow.
I can say to you that I recently spoke with face to face with one of the leaders of the Grenada Revolution, whose parents came from a very poor rural background. And when during holidays they went and visited their relatives in the country, a majority of the people in their village, including members of their families, said they did not have money from the work that they did to purchase underwear. And the underwear that they made was underwear that was made out of flour sacks. Now, you look fairly young, so I suspect that you were not around in Jamaica when flour was delivered in some sort of muslin sacks, which were then used. They were turned inside out so you didn't see the name, and sewn up and so on. And I had one for a shirt. A shirt was made out of one. And the knickers were made out of one. And this person told me that Gary, this actually happened. And the Gary supporters will tell you that it was Gary that brought about wage increases and so on. So Gary is a multifaceted character. Brutal, certainly.
Yes.
Not having the capacity to take Grenada from independence into a higher plane, wishing to just occupy the seat occupied by the colonialists and so on, but certainly not someone who did nothing for Grenada. And he did things for Grenada.
Okay, thank you for that. I thought you might mention that if we were in the, as it were, the tradition, I believe the name is Julien Fedon, the leader, leader of the rebellion, a foundational figure in Grenadian resistant history. I'm reminded there's an analogy in Jamaica with Samuel Sharp, for example.
I'm sorry if I didn't go enough. Gary, along with Julien Fedon, is one of those that led Grenada at a particular junction into a particular direction. Grenada, small though it is, and easily manipulated.
Yes.
Gary illustrated to the British that the gig was up. You couldn't do it this way anymore. And so I believe he led not just to the independence of Grenada, but the independence of other nations in Grenada who were striving for independence at the time. So if I didn't illustrate that, Mr. Gary, Sir Matthew Gary, I'm sorry.
I think that's also true. But it is well. And my next question for you is, of course, now you've mentioned Julien Fedon, the early Grenadian resistance movements. Okay, we've mentioned, of course, Gary and his importance in that broad psychology that is the Grenadian resistance movement. I want to, if I may, link those two personalities and your connection with Maurice Bishop. How is it that you came to know of him and actually become part of that movement? Please explain.
Okay. False memory may come into play here. So anyone who...
Oh, come on now. You are authentic. You are history personified. You live through the experience.
Thank you so much. I arrived in this country in 1960 by way of ship, and I had my education in North London, and my parents had said to me, I should speak the way that I currently do, because you're not going back to Grenada. This is your country. Although Shabina Mahmood, the Home Secretary, might take a different view. And I didn't go back to Grenada until 1972. I spent about 6 weeks, because that's the time you needed really to get into your value of the amount that you were paying in the airfare out of the trip. And whilst I was in Grenada, I was having a great time, went to the beach, met friends, drove around, and just was not interested in the politics of Grenada, because I was not going to go and live there. Whilst I was away at the beach, someone had called upon my house from the NJM, not interested. They left the telephone number, not interested. I came back to England. And
forgive me for interrupting. Well, forgive me. You said NJM. I believe I know what you mean, but just for the benefit of the audience.
Okay. The political party that tried to contact me was an amalgamation of previous political parties in Grenada, small political parties. One of them was called Jewel, and the other one was called MAP, Movement for the Assemblies of the People. And they joined together and became the new Jewel movement, with Jewel standing for Joint Endeavour for Welfare, Education and Liberation, a name that I still have very close to my heart. Okay. I wasn't interested. I was Grenada, yes, that's where I was born, that's where my relatives were. And I sort of came back to Britain, and I had a sort of Damascene moment. A few months after I came back, I realized that I'd seen poverty. I'd seen pure poverty. And whilst by Grenadian standards my family were not poor, I thought, well, supposing I had been born and I was living with poverty in that country, what would I want people to do? And so I looked around, and I found that there was a group here in Britain called Grenada Cause for Concern, ostensibly supporting development in Grenada politically, but in reality being a support group for the new Jewel movement. And I joined that organization shortly after I returned from Grenada, and it was led by Dennis Gust. Oh no, it's frozen again.
Oh yes, you have.
Okay, let's. Oh no, come back. Oh,
yep.
This tells me I have to buy new equipment. Continuing, it was led by Fennis Augustine, who became the revolution's first High Commissioner of Grenada to Britain. And I worked with Fennis Augustine until the revolution occurred on March 13th, 1979. And I have been involved around Grenada and the politics of Grenada in Britain since then. Working with Fennis Augustine, I offered my services as a driver to the High Commission, and I undertook a number of tasks for the revolution. These were not secret political tasks. These were things like trying to get new sources of fertilizer and so on. And I was then appointed trade officer by the government of Grenada, and I went and received my papers directly from Maurice Bishop, the Prime Minister of Grenada, in Mount Welldale, his official home, in his living room, where he said something to me which I thought at the time was rather strange, which is, we have to export. We need to export or die. And I thought, well, I know lawyers speak in hyperbole, Maurice, but I don't think you have to actually die you know. I don't know what he meant by that. And so I met with Maurice. He visited Britain, or passed through a number of times, and he had a major speaking engagement in Britain, which was organized by the High Commission and myself included in a minor capacity. And I will say this of Maurice. You could listen to him reading the telephone directory. And when he finished, you wanted to get another telephone directory and ask him to speak. The timbre of his voice. I mean, this this is not a homoerotic thing I have about Maurice. It's just, I was phenomenal. You know, he could explain and articulate something very, very simply. So in speaking to Reagan, he said, we are in nobody's backyard.
Indeed.
And it came across so well. And so I therefore knew of the speeches that Maurice gave. We had videotapes coming up to us to look at the speeches and so on. And as we're going to discuss later on, his killing was a great tragedy. Very, very sad.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and I now see the connection. So he's falling in a tradition. And I'm appreciating a charismatic personality, excellent communicator, evidently. But I imagine at the time you had your own political influences. I just want to talk about you for a moment. Who are your, prior to meeting Maurice Bishop and being part of the New Dual Party, who were your early political influences that created your political thought process at the time? I know it's evolved since then, but give us some idea of who were your political influences.
Well, I was an ordinary student in my school, not gifted, still not very gifted academically. So it's not like I sat down and read
hold
through.
On, people. I'm not going to let him get away with that, people. I'm not going to get away with that. You know? I'm going to emphasize this is history speaking to us. You know, this is not the history books. This is history speaking to us. You can hear history. Every word we all need to pay attention to. Please go ahead, Corbin.
So I did not read Frantz Fanon or the history and life of Garvey. Oh. My major influence was Muhammad Ali. Okay.
Ooh.
Muhammad Ali. He then had previously been Cassius Clay.
Indeed.
But he was Muhammad Ali. Malcolm X. James Brown.
Indeed.
Nelson Mandela. The West Indies cricket team at that time. Sorry, they actually came in the 60s. And it was phenomenal. Here was James Brown saying, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud.
Yes.
Say it louder, I'm black and I'm prouder.
Yes.
Wow. Because we had been inculcated into believing that our complexion was what defined us, and that we had this great ability to be stupid. And here was James Brown saying something that, and saying, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud.
Louder, yes.
Say it louder.
Oh, yeah.
And Muhammad Ali, in his fight, I think, maybe with Ernie Terrell, I can't remember, saying, what's my name? What's my name? Because he is saying, Cassius Clay is my slave name.
Indeed.
And I thought, what? Well, yes. Then, of course, you had Malcolm X, who clearly stated the role for African Americans and for people of African descent everywhere. And then you had Nelson Mandela,
Yes.
clearly fighting for his people. There was no nuance, clearly fighting for his people. And you had previously the West Indies cricket team who beat Britain. And so all of these things were influential. At that time, a number of my colleagues were wearing their dashiki. I locked up, and I knew very little about my ancestry, either the Indian or the African side. I identified as African, and I'm proud of my Indian heritage too, but I identify as African. And when becoming involved in the Grenada cause for concern, Buzz Butler, a well-known Grenadian-born trade unionist who went to live and work in Trinidad, and Mary Shaw, a rather middle-class Grenadian, but a nationalist nonetheless, who advocated independence for the Caribbean under a federation.
Yes.
They came into my orbit.
Absolutely.
And then learning about the 1700s, the late 1700s, 1790s, I think, the revolution led by Fedon, again, was instrumental in my knowledge. Plus what was happening in Grenada with the repression brought about by Geary, again, was a lesson. And I'd like to just say that Grenada holds the distinction of being the only colony that captured and executed its Governor General.
Indeed,
not because
it is true.
Not because of brutality. No, we weren't that brutal. We're not going to execute you for no reason. There was, in the revolution, a number of the revolutionaries who were captured, and they were to be executed. And a swap was negotiated, and the British reneged on that swap and executed those individuals. And so the revolutionaries executed the Governor General. I think his name was Home, or being Scottish, it would be pronounced as Hume. Yeah. So,
can I just draw you back? An interesting series of influences that you have there. Okay. And you mentioned, of course, Muhammad Ali. Okay. Now, it is interesting. You are the first person in my 3-4 years of doing these podcasts who've referenced Muhammad Ali, okay, as a influencer. So I'm going to take the liberty, before I go into the main substance of our interview, just to ask why he made an impression upon the young Quabbiner. Why did he make that impression upon you?
Very, very simple. The context in which it was at the time, where there was still, to a certain extent, lynching in America.
Yes.
There was the racism in America. We were getting newsreel pictures of fire hoses being turned on our brothers and sisters in America, of police dogs being let loose on our sisters and brothers in America. It was very much in our front room. We could see it.
It was.
Right.
Yes.
You could see it. It was the time of the Selma marches. It was the time of this. It was the time of that. And here was a scenario in which there was this rather uppity young African American. He had won the, I think, the gold medal in the Olympics or something.
Yes.
And here he was.
Boxing.
And do you know what's going to happen? There's going to be this big match where this uppity Negro is going to get a whipping from the house Negro. And poor old Sonny Liston, because again, like with Gary, it's more nuanced, was not just like that. It wasn't like that. But how it was portrayed by the media, by those who are seeking to influence us, is this is what's going to happen. And Muhammad Ali was not this bumbling person who couldn't say any words that had more than 3 syllables in them. He was someone who was articulate.
Yes,
And
very much
his
so.
articulation was not about his car and his women. Of course, he had cars and women and so on. It was about issues that affected black sisters and brothers there and in this country, the racism. And he spoke sense. So you listen to him, or most people listen to him. And then the match itself, he defeated the House Negro, because poor old Sonny Liston had been portrayed and maybe self-portrayed as the House Negro. Mm-hmm. And the uppity one defeated him. Absolutely. So when Muhammad Ali says, I am giving up the name Cassius Clay, mm-hmm. it was easy to follow through. Mm-hmm. And yes, the man says his name is Muhammad Ali. Accept it. What's it to do with you? If you don't want to say it, don't say it, but don't say to him, you have to change your name back to a name that you no longer wish. And that resonated with me. Yeah. So I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I didn't, as I said, I didn't have the intellect to read Fanon or to read about the life of Garvey, but there in your front room was the information that you were getting. And I would say, when we come to the end of this, I would urge everyone, look around you. The information is there. It's on your phone. Right? Educate yourself.
Well said. Well said, Kwabena. Well said. And you are right. A remarkable person was Muhammad Ali. He demonstrated both the intellectual scope and breadth of African Americans, okay, but the absolute determination and ability for a single man to influence tens of millions, not only African Americans, but Americans generally, facing up to, I'm not going to say racism, I'm going to say fascism, American style fascism. That's what it is. That's what we're going through. That's what the civil rights movement resisting. American style fascism. Give it its proper name.
Martin, I'm afraid this means what you've just said, that you dare not travel to America whilst Trump is in office. I'm sorry. you are going to find yourself in a detention center in Florida. For being kicked up.
I'm not going there.
I would like to say one more thing. It has come back. He was also influential in changing my view as a stupid boy. This was before the Grenada incident, when I went to Grenada, where I believed in the American mission in Vietnam. Because your propaganda is the communists are coming and are going to take over, and these poor Vietnamese are going to become communists and so on. And he said, look, why should a black man go and fight, I think he said a yellow man, for a white man? What's that to do with us? And again, the way he said it encapsulates very, very neatly why we should have nothing to do with the Vietnam War. And that also resonated with a number of whites who were against the Vietnam War, seeing it what it is or was, but nothing more than fascism, as you've described it. So you look around for your sources of education and you take them where you can.
Well said, and thank you for those responses. Now you've set some context, both the historical context, your early influences, your context, your contact with Maurice Bishop, which is very useful to understand. You've elaborated the New Dual Party, its aim, its aims and objectives, its purpose. That's beautifully said. I want to get to the heart of this right now. Now, in 1983, the US invasion of Grenada is described as a mission to protect the American students and restore democracy. Today, Washington defends its increased military presence in the Caribbean, particularly against Venezuela, by invoking the concept of narco-terrorism. I want to ask this question of you. How do you perceive the connection between these two events? And what do they reveal about the ongoing rationale behind US imperialist action in the region, in the Caribbean and South American region?
The United States perceives the region to be its backyard.
Or the Monroe Doctrine, as it were.
The Monroe Doctrine, enunciated by President Monroe whenever he was alive or whatever. Well, thank you very much for including us in your backyard, although you don't give us access to the house, but there you go, President.
Well said again.
It is used against any country or any leader, whether right-wing or left-wing, who goes against America's economic and political interests. The two are intertwined. Yeah. And it is being used currently against Cuba, and it is heightened against Venezuela, and it was not effectively used against Grenada. The reason the invasion of Grenada occurred, and the potential invasion for Venezuela is going to occur, is because of the successes that these countries, plus Cuba, have achieved for their people. Okay? Well, why does America then use these terms such as protecting its students, restoring democracy, painting President Maduro as the head of a cartel, a drugs cartel? It's because America has defined itself as this bright city on a hill. And that has been embellished over the years since it was first enunciated in 1630. That it is this democracy in which decency prevails and in which right-thinking people can walk free. It is a load of stuff. Okay? But they have to keep it going because that's internationally how they also sell themselves. America sells, or the United States sells itself internally to its citizens as this is who we are. Just like you and I and everyone else like to believe that we are virtuous, we are good people. The reality is that America needs our resources and our labor. And if we move away from that, they are threatened. And the Grenada Revolution achieved phenomenal success for its people, despite its
Can you elaborate? Can I ask you just to elaborate on those successes? Because I think this is where I suspect it's the nub of the issue here. What successes were these relatively tiny, modest income countries achieving that America was so terrified about? An economy worth tens of trillions of dollars against an economy worth a few $100 million. What were they so terrified by? What was your comrade Maurice Bishop and the people that he led? What did they achieve? They're so terrified. This enormous economy with multi-billion pounds military equipment all around the world. What were they so terrified? What did you achieve in Grenada that terrified them?
Well, let us look at the genesis of this success. Part of the propaganda that the Americans would like to paint is that there were these black guys with their afros and their flip-flops and their multicolored shirts, and they somehow took over with guns and managed by some chance to seize power, which we did. Didn't wear flip-flops, though. And but beforehand, the New Jewel movement was a political party in Grenada. And it worked towards setting up what was called a manifesto, in which it spoke at almost every village saying what it is you want when we come into power. And that manifesto was published, and I think that 10,000 copies were circulated around Grenada. And it spells out, and in fact, If you look at New Jewel Manifesto on the internet, you will find copies of it. It spells out, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do for women. This is what we're going to do for education, and so on and so on. And immediately upon coming into power, without having any knowledge of the financial situation faced by Grenada, we cut education fees by 50%. Within 6 months, 50%.
Wow.
Within 6 months, we removed education as a cost, and education became fully free within about a year.
Hold on. So, in other words, education was being paid for through taxes. So it was free at the point of use, in other words.
It was being paid for at the point of use. You had to pay out of your pocket. It wasn't paid from taxes. Some of it wasn't so simple. Some of it would have been paid for taxes. So the capital equipment may have been paid for taxes and paid from taxes and so on. But you had to pay school fees for your children. Not only that, you had to pay for books and you had to pay for uniform. Within a year, uniform and books were free, as well as educational facilities. Okay.
Wow.
Free healthcare. Right. Free healthcare was introduced. A social security system was introduced. The banks that were seeking to close, the foreign banks that were seeking to close and bring pressure upon Grenada, they were taken over, and an agro-industrial plant was developed so that the juices that were wasted when our fruits matured and ripened and rotted, it was built and exports were made. I know because I sold some of those exports in Britain. 300 or 400 students went abroad to study, and they were to return, and so industries and so on. All of that was to happen. A range of things. A house building program took place, which would bring about housing for the poorest people. An equality law was passed in which young women were not subject to sex exploitation in seeking employment and so on. And a range of things. The key achievement was the building of an international airport. An international airport had been on the drawing boards in Grenada since the British were there, but they never built it. So you had to use an old, dilapidated airport somewhere in the middle of the island. We said, when we came into office, we're going to build an international airport. We were assisted by Cuba in the form of labor and technical expertise, and by the Libyan government, who gave us a loan. But let me say this, Martin. Yeah. If the Cubans weren't able to help us, or the Libyans didn't give us any money, we're going to build the airport anyway. We don't care. This is essential for us. We are going to build it.
Yes.
Now, that sort of mood frightened the Americans. Not only was it an illustration of what you can do without money, but it was done by blacks who spoke English. And it illustrates to the millions of African Americans in America the potential for change and development that can take place, and you don't have to depend on a third party coming in to help you. Don't go down the road of cargo cultism, where you build an airport and hope that planes will land and give you the resources. You're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to educate yourself and work hard for it. And the Grenadians did that. Unemployment was reduced from 45% of the adult working population to 14%. High figure nonetheless. We declined loans from the World Bank and assistance from the IMF because we knew of the structures that they will impose. And I think I may have mentioned that we set up a social security system, which meant that you got a pension when you worked, because previously, when you worked and retired because your body was worn out, you were just like the old slave that had worked their way out of the plantation.
Yes.
And were put in the almshouses if they were lucky, or put in a hut on the plantation to die. My uncle got a pension as a result of that initiative led by the revolution. And if you look at what's happening in Venezuela, despite the embargoes...
Can I, before you go to Venezuela, just remain on, forgive me for this, remain on Grenada, because what you've highlighted, of course, are common sense policies. Yep.
You mean they're not communist policies? They don't want everyone reading a red book?
I said common sense, but I don't know about communism.
Nothing wrong with communism. It's just,
point out,
sarcastic. Yeah.
No, it's okay. It is well, because these are common sense policies. If you have an economy that seeks to grow, you have to invest in people. Therefore, you have to improve the conditions of people so that growth, you create conditions in which growth is possible. And before starting this interview, I read through the manifesto of the party, okay? And I took some notes of it, and it was fascinating. The manifesto promised...
I haven't read the manifesto for years. Sorry.
I'm obliged to prepare. But let me just quickly summarize. The manifesto promised that it would establish village and community councils. The people would come together and discuss the best interest of the whole of the people, not just some of the peoples. Have the workplace democracy, in other words, unions in effect. Okay. The people would participate in the national planning, or those big strategic documents. They would participate that. There'll be political education, and to ensure that citizens understood the governance concept and what good governance looked like. Okay, the party promised workers' rights. In other words, you understood what your rights are. There'll be fair wages. Yeah? Never these wages which are so low that you cannot live. There'll be fair wages. Okay, that the public ownership of assets was seen as being a crucial way to ensure that assets remain in public control. Okay, a reduction in foreign control over the bank's land and utilities was another one of those key cornerstone policies that they sought to develop, which to me are, if I may, are just common sense policies if you wish to grow a nation. Okay, and another one of the commitments they've made, of course, access to land for small farmers was always seen as being critical, because clearly the land was controlled by old latter-day colonial families. In fact, it still remained largely controlled, but the government sought to take back some of that control so that ordinary African peoples could farm the land. Again, common sense policies, and breaking up those estates which were idle, where the owners are in Europe or wherever and just left the land idle. Okay, if that's the case, then the government should take control of those lands. Increasing local food production, again, common sense policies. Why import when you've got such fertile land? Okay, I can go on. This seems to be just common sense policies. Why would that frighten the United States of America? Now that's the question for me.
Well, I am very pleased that you and I did not discuss the manifesto before this program. This is the first time we're discussing it. And my pleasure is based upon the fact that what I said was manifest in what you have just said. And most of the matters in the manifesto were done. The one failing was that we had not formalized the local, village, and regional councils, but they met. They met on a regular basis. That, in fact, may have contributed towards the certain aspects of the failure and collapse of the revolution, because comrades were having to meet so often. Budgets were set, not by people sitting in an office either in Whitehall here or in St. George in Grenada, but taken to the people who said, we want this, we want that. It was a living document, and it is still relevant today in Grenada as before.
Yes.
I mentioned to you the agro-industrial plant. You've just mentioned it was in the manifesto, which is the island is festooned with mangoes, with fruit trees, with pineapples and so on, and they cannot be exported. And when they're exported, they're converted into juices and so on, which we have, well, they're not exported raw and converted into juice, but the juices are made and other people benefit from the result of that added value. We said no. How is that threatening America? It's threatening America on a number of fronts. Firstly, it establishes that poor people can do things without recourse to the capital that is present in America or Britain or other European countries.
Yes.
These poor people have the capacity to do it. It is not some skill innate to people with a different complexion. 3, if they do it, then we can't sell our finished products to them.
There you go. Yes.
So, if you go, I think, to Jamaica, and you go into any supermarket, or even into those little wooden kiosks with a couple of red stripe at the back of the shelf and so on, almost everything is made in America or not made in Jamaica, unless it's the rum or the beer. So that means you're paying a huge amount for things that you can make in your own country.
And to be clear, and you know, Jamaicans will, some Jamaicans, in fact, many Jamaicans will not recognize this. Those big labels that Jamaicans, I won't quote them now, okay? Those big labels are not owned by African Jamaicans. They're owned by the old enslaver families that still own vast swathes of the economy. Yep. It really is important. And if I may just add further to what you're describing, and because this manifesto, when I read it, I was so heartened by it. You know, you mentioned the education. I did want to emphasize, though, you haven't said it all. I'm going to say it for you. Okay? Then you can. Free education, in other words, paid for through the taxes, so for free at the point of use, for secondary schools, the adult literacy programs, the access to it, technical and vocational training, scholarships for poor families, and a curriculum that reflects the African Caribbean identity. Okay? Can you imagine? And in healthcare, you touched on it again.
Just stopping you there.
Of course.
Going through just the successes. I mean, today we're talking about Venezuela and the threat that it faces and what lessons can be learned from Grenada. But just going through the successes of the revolution would require several of these programs, because you then have to go into them. Was it all myth? Was it all propaganda? If you want to find out about the changes in the curriculum, go to the Black Cultural Archive, where Chris Searle, a former senior officer of education, a white comrade, in Sheffield. Before going to Sheffield, he was a head of a school in Stepney Green. He was a senior consultant, along with Paulo Freire, to Jackie Kraft, the education minister in the People's Revolutionary Government of Grenada. He has donated the books that were produced by Fedon Press, and they reside in the Black Cultural Archive under the Jackie Kraft designation. Now, these books don't have Janet and John going up a hill. You know, they don't have Janet and John saying, "It is Christmas, look at the snow." It have things about what we're doing, that Mama is picking up the yam from the garden,
Yes.
that Grandma is putting the pot to boil on the fire, and so on. Things which are relevant to us,
Yes.
and so on. So again, some of the things that you said, Martin, I'm pleased that you have said them independently, because a lot of people will think this guy Kwabena is nothing but a mouthpiece of propaganda for a regime that has long ago ceased.
No.
These are things that can be done now. These are things which are
Absolutely.
relevant now. We're being given
Absolutely.
amnesia to stop us thinking about them.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Okay, sorry.
No, it is well, and I like that intervention. I just want to just quote one more section of the manifesto, and with all the evidence that was implemented. That's, of course, on affordable housing. Here in London, we know a lot about that. Yeah, affordable housing for the masses. Okay, improved water systems. Okay, access to good, clean, fresh water. Okay, rural electrification was another priority. Absolutely. Come on now. Come on. Without electricity, you cannot. There is no opportunity for genuine growth. Rebuilding the road networks. Again, that logistic intercommunication. Roads are an essential, foundational, structural piece that must be put in place. That investment was made by this government. Short period of its existence, but yet the investment went forward. Significant impact on the overall strength and cohesion of that nation until American intervention. Okay, and I did want to say one last section.
America.
And I just want to talk.
Sorry, just America intervened much, much, much earlier. The first intervention was from the ambassador to the Eastern Caribbean. I think his name was Rizzo. During a meeting with the revolutionary leaders, he came with a briefcase with $5,000 and said, "Here's some money. If you follow what America wishes to do, more is to come." And well, one is the insult. What do you mean $5,000 shared amongst the cabinet? What kind of? Secondly, who the hell do you think you are, coming into our country and effectively bribing us? No. So they sought to intervene straight away. Now they then, through the CIA, exploded a bomb at a place called Queen's Park during a rally. This, I think, was in 81. 3 young women were killed and several were injured. Principally women. Why women? Because they were strong supporters of the revolution, because of what we did for women in the revolution. And they were young women. Okay? In my parish, St. Patrick, 4 people traveling in a car, including...
I love that.
Sorry. Yeah. Let me just... 4 people, including a tourist from Britain, Grenadian from Britain, were killed by people who had been trained and armed by the CIA.
Yes.
And there were various plots to murder the leadership of the revolution. So it wasn't on October the 25th when America showed its hand. America showed its hand in a brutal way there. The people who were instrumental in the bombing were captured. Some of them were captured, some of them were killed. And yes, we did lock up people. We locked up people without trial. I would have said, I will say now, in hindsight, we should have brought them to trial as soon as possible and not kept them under administrative detention. Some of those people who were instrumental in the killing of people in the bombing, they know who they are. They fled to America, and some of them are back in Grenada. There should be a sort of general, not a general discussion and decision as to what we do, but these people are about my age or younger. So America was attacking the revolution from its first days.
I've got this, and I think that's the point, that they were either overtly or covertly seeking to undermine the revolution. We use the word revolution, but actually, there you are. That's a part of that interview. Oh my gosh. And he went into other details, truly enthralling details. He is a revolutionary, yeah, in the flesh. Okay. Revolutionary, just wanting common sense policies to help the masses to have a safe, healthy life, one in which we can grow as human beings, be respected as human beings. Huh? Basic human rights. Yeah. If you want to watch the rest of that interview, it's been organized into 5 parts, so it's manageable parts. Okay. We'll have references on the screens. Okay. And that will help you to better understand the terminology and the persons and events that are referred to, so you can fully appreciate what is possible when all the people come together in common aim and common purpose, upholding the values, the purpose, the mission of the Motivator Show, because this is where we translate our words into action, because success is ours for the taking. He is a perfect example why these podcasts are transmitted to you each and every Saturday, more frequently soon, more frequently. But there's a lesson, many lessons there for Jamaica during this time of great turmoil. I wish to encourage you, if you're not on our mailing list, to join our mailing list. We've just started to distribute details of the meeting scheduled for the 26th of November, Wednesday coming, in other words, and depending on when you watch this podcast, okay? You are cordially invited. You are cordially invited. I'm going to put the details again on the screen. It is so important that as many of you attend. It's an online meeting, so it's easy. You can do it from your phone, from your homes, from your offices. There you go. It's hosted by P&P UK, which is a not-for-profit enterprise here, but it's there to promote the interests of Jamaica here in Britain. Okay. So the meeting is scheduled, the town hall meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, the 26th of November. Start sharp at 7 p.m. Yep, that's London time. If you wish to attend, okay, send a message through to the PNP secretary, okay, and I'll put her details on the screen for you. She is a remarkable human being. I have to tell you, I don't mind saying that. She'll screw him out right now. She is a remarkable human being. Okay, send your messages to pnpuk.secretary@gmail.com. She will send you the link to the meeting so you can access that meeting. It's important to arrive before 7. I recommend at least 15, 20 minutes beforehand, okay? Because we may be chatting casually, but it's important to ensure you can get in, okay? This will be an important seminal meeting, because at this meeting, we'll have the president of the PNP party in Jamaica present, and members of the Senate, in other words, elected members whose constituencies was devastated by Hurricane Melissa. Okay? It will be vital meeting. You'll receive first-hand accounts from these elected politicians because they are desperate for your support. So the president is the Honourable Mark Golding. Okay? General Secretary Dr. Dayton Campbell. The Shadow Minister for Local Government and Participatory Governance, MP Natalie Nita Garvey. Yes, I said it, Garvey. Okay, you can ask if she's related to the great man himself. I urge you to make these inquiries early. Don't wait for the last moment. Yeah. So the email should be sent to pnpuk.secretary@gmail.com. Okay. And if you're not a part of the general circulation for the Motivator Show, I urge you to join our mailing list. It will be increasingly important for you to do so. If in doubt, ask questions, I say. If in doubt, ask questions. So the Motivator Show email address, I'll put it on the screen for you as well. There you are. The Motivator Show 501@gmail.com. And of course, there are over 100,000 of you are now receiving our WhatsApp messages. We'll add you to that list, of course. Okay. More than 100,000 of you receiving the WhatsApp messages and the invitation to attend that town hall meeting. Seminal, important town hall meetings of the elected politicians in Jamaica who provide a first-hand account of what is actually happening in Jamaica, in those constituencies devastated by Hurricane Melissa. So the diaspora, the friends of Jamaica, the lovers of Jamaica, can all join together, and together we will all make the difference. But it takes that political leadership. That's what it takes. Political leadership, determined leadership, visionary leadership. That's what we need. And that is what will be present on the 25th of November. Let's work together, because together we will transform the world. So remember, send your message to the PNP UK Secretary. So the email address again is pnpuk.secretary@gmail.com. We welcome your attendance. It will be truly an inspirational experience, truly inspirational. A lot of information has been shared today. I know that many of you sometimes are a bit overwhelmed by the information. I get it. I get that, okay? That's why, following this, we will organize that interview into bite-sized chunks so we can all digest the content, the inspired content, what is possible when you work together. In unity is strength. Oh, yeah. In unity is strength. Out of many, one people. That's the human race. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm going to play the intro video, but that intro video provides the context for the interview you've just heard. Okay. And at the end, you will hear the actual voice of Maurice Bishop. Yeah. That visionary leader. Yep. Who heads the people that so terrified the Americans. A multi-trillion-dollar economy was terrified of an economy worth only a couple of $100 million. A 350 million population, terrified of a population of about 100,000. Yeah. Why? Because black men, African men, were leading the charge for change. Praise be, praise be. You are the kingmakers. You are the queen makers. You are the change makers. It is within your gift. It is within your gift. Others are trying to tell you otherwise. I'm assuring you, it is within your gift. If in doubt, ask questions. Ask questions. So I'm going to play the intro video, not because I want to bore you, but because the intro video contains information you must absorb. As I said, as you get to the end, you'll hear the great man's actual voice, the power and the majesty of the voice is to behold. Until the next time, I remain the motivator. Thank you.
Jamaica and Grenada, a lesson learnt. Collaboration, wisdom, dominance, strengths, compassion, nurturing, intelligence, influential. Respect. From invasion to superstorm, lessons Grenada and Jamaica cannot ignore. History has a way of warning us long before the crisis arrives. In 1983, Grenada learned that externally inspired political instability invites forces far larger than its shores could contain. The assassination of Maurice Bishop and the sudden US invasion were more than a dramatic headline. They were a blunt reminder that small nations without internal unity or strategic resilience, nations pursuing social justice, economic empowerment, cultural uplifting, policies can quickly become arenas for a predatory, economic, and military superpower. 4 decades later, Jamaica is learning its own hard lesson, not from soldiers, but from the sky. 2 catastrophic superstorms in consecutive years, Beryl in 2024 and Melissa in 2025, have smashed homes, broken infrastructure, and erased progress. Melissa alone inflicted more than $8.8 billion in losses, wiping out 42% of Jamaica's GDP. It was not just a hurricane, it was an economic shockwave. The genesis is since the early 19th century. The burning of coal and oil by the industrialized countries of Eurasia, United States of America, and Japan, releasing billions of tons of global warming atmospheric gases into the atmosphere. Countries in the southern hemisphere will pay a heavy price for the hubris of the northern hemispheric countries. Though different in form, both Grenada's political crisis and Jamaica's environmental disasters expose the same truth. The Caribbean stands on a dangerous front line. External pressures, whether geopolitical or climatic, strike small island states with a disproportionate force. A single political fracture or a single storm can unravel decades of development. But these events also reveal something else. The unbreakable spirit of Caribbean peoples. Grenada rebuilt after invasion. Jamaica is rising through the debris and loss with a determination that no storm can silence. Communities are organizing. The diaspora is mobilizing. Ordinary citizens are stepping into extraordinary roles. The lesson for both nations is simple but urgent. Resilience cannot be postponed. Political stability must be protected like infrastructure. Climate readiness must be treated like national security. Regional cooperation must become a habit, not a reaction. And both government and citizens must recognize that vulnerability is not fate, but failing to prepare is. Grenada teaches Jamaica the cost of political division. Jamaica teaches Grenada the price of environmental neglect. Together, they teach the Caribbean that survival requires unity, foresight, and relentless preparation. The future belongs to islands that understand their risk and build their strength before the next crisis arrives. The Caribbean has endured invasions, hurricane, external interference, but it has never surrendered its hope or its will to rise again. This is the moment to act boldly, learn deeply, and build a region that no army and no superstorm can break. Listen to the words of Maurice Bishop himself, speaking to the people.
Our people understand the value and the benefit of free secondary education because they know now that once their children are able to pass the common entrance exam and get into secondary school, they no longer have to worry about finding those fees, which, as you know, for agricultural workers, for example, were very often impossible. But not just free secondary education, but in effect free university education. Moving from a situation before the revolution, where in the last year of Gary, 1978, just 3 people went abroad on university scholarships. And they happened to be Gary's daughter and one of his other minister's daughter. Moving from that situation, in the first 6 months of the revolution, 109 students were able to go abroad on free university scholarships. Our people are more and more getting to understand what we mean when we say that education to us is liberation. That education is a strategic concern of this government. That is why this year, 1982, is the year we have named the year of political and academic education, because we understand the importance of bringing education to our people. Following the establishment of the Center for Popular Education program in early 1980, within 1 year of the work of the CPE program, the illiteracy figure in Grenada was reduced to 2% of the entire population. The people understand that in all areas of their basic needs, real attempts are being made to solve these problems. 2.5 million gallons more of water, pipe-borne water, are flowing into the homes of our Grenadians at this time. Before the revolution, under 30% of all homes had potable water. The people understand what it means when electrification is brought to their village. The people understand what it means when they know that by the middle of next year, we would have doubled the electricity output and capacity in our country, and therefore more people would have the possibility of electricity. Our people, therefore, sisters and brothers, have a greater and deeper understanding of what the revolution means and what it has brought to them. They certainly understand very, very clearly that when some people attack us on the ground of human rights, when some people attack us on the ground of constituting a threat to the national security of other countries, our people understand that is foolishness. They know the real reason has to do with the fact of the revolution and the benefits that the revolution are bringing to the people of our country. The real reason for all of this hostility is because some perceive that what is happening in Grenada can lay a new socio-economic and political path of development. They give all kinds of reasons and excuses, some of them credible, some utter rubbish. There's an interesting one that we saw very recently in a secret report of the State Department. I want to tell you about that one, so you can reflect on that one. That secret report made this point, that Grenada is different to Cuba and Nicaragua. And the Grenada Revolution is in one sense even worse, I'm using their language, than the Cuban and Nicaraguan revolutions, because the people of Grenada and the leadership of Grenada speaks English and therefore can communicate directly to the people of the United States. I can see from your applause, sisters and brothers, that you agree with the report. But I want to tell you what that same report also said, and said that also made us very dangerous. And that is that the people of Grenada and the leadership of Grenada are predominantly black. They said that 95% of our population is black, and they had a correct statistic. And if we have 95% of predominantly African origin in our country, then we can have a dangerous appeal to 30 million black people in the United States. Now, that aspect of the report clearly is one of the more sensible ones. But, sisters and brothers, how do we evaluate other sides of the report? Like when they say that Grenada violates human rights. When they say to us, how come you have detainees? What about the press? What about elections? When they say to us, where are your elections? They don't turn around at the same time and say to their friends in South Africa, where are your elections? When they say to us that elections must be held, and if you don't have elections, then you can't expect support, and unless you have elections, then we can't give you the normal treatment, we say, when the Americans had their revolution in 1776, it took them 13 years to call their election. They talk about detainees, but when the American Revolution came in 1776, 600,000 people were detained in this country. 100,000 Americans In the first week of the American Revolution, 100,000 fled to Canada. Thousands were locked up without charge or trial. Hundreds were shot. And the counter-revolutionaries after the American Revolution, they had no right to vote. They had no right to teach. They had no right to preach. They had no right to a job. Their land was confiscated without payment. So when the falsifiers of history try to pretend that the American Revolution was a Boston Tea Party, was a very bloody Tea Party. That's something that very often happens in all revolutions. The spontaneous upheaval of the masses did not really happen in Grenada. A church-based organization in Washington called Epica wrote a book last year on Grenada. They called it Grenada, the Peaceful Revolution. We can understand why. That the time has in fact come for us to make another step along the way towards institutionalizing the process that we have been building for 4 years. And that is why only yesterday in Grenada, the new chairman of the Constitutional Commission arrived in our capital city, St. George's, from Trinidad and Tobago to announce the formation of the Constitutional Commission that has now undertaken the task of drafting a new constitution for our young revolution. This constitution is not really going to look like the one that the Queen gave us in 1974. This time round, this constitution is going to come out of the bowels of our people and out of our earth. Our people will have their inputs and will decide what they want to see go into that constitution. Our new constitution also is certainly going to institutionalize and entrench the systems of popular democracy which we have been building over these past 4 years in our country. Because to us, democracy is much, much more than just an election. To us, democracy is a great deal more than just the right to put an X next to Tweedledum name or Tweedledee name every 5 years. But democracy also means, and to us it has 5 integrated components. First, accountability. People have to account to those who elect them. The second principle of democracy to us, responsibility. We don't believe in Grenada in presidents for life or elected people for life. We believe in service for life. And when you stop serving, you must be recalled and get out of the way for somebody else to serve. The third principle. To us, the third principle of democracy is participatory mechanisms, popular participation. If we are serious about democracy, and here I will accept the definition, the well-known definition of Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln said of democracy that it is government of, for, and by the people. I accept that. It's a good definition. But if it is government of, for, and by the people, then it cannot be just government of the people you elect. It also has to be for them, and it also has to be by them. They have to have a way of participating. That is what the word by means. And if that is absent, you don't really have the democracy. We believe that it is very important for the people to have a voice in running their affairs.